It's a whole new world we live in. Pokemon Johto.
Do 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 do. Do-do-do-do-do-do. Here I am again on another day to talk about Pokemon. This one we're talking about Johto, and if you haven't seen the last video talking about Kanto, and you're a big fan of Bulbasaurs and Charmanders, you may want to go click that one first. But if you despise Kanto for whatever reason and you actually love Johto, then you go ahead and stay here. This is the video for you. Now, as mentioned in the previous video, I won't be talking about certain things, such as the anime. Ash Ketchum is fumbling the bag in every single one of these generations, so I may put that up here as a clip, but doesn't mean we're talking about him. He can lose wherever he wants to by himself. And on top of that, that includes the movies as well. Johto has some pretty good movies, but not talking about them. Only thing here we're talking about are the games: Gold, Silver, Crystal, and Heart Gold, and Soul Silver. So before we hop into the fun, consider like, commenting, and subscribing. I know a lot of people that like Johto, so I want to see how many of you actually like it compared to Kanto. So let's go ahead and get started. The original Gold and Silver came out in 1999. with Heart Gold and Soul Silver coming out 10 years after that. And honestly, these games had more to prove than the first series. You may be asking yourself, why? Well, that's because we have standards now. Everybody was going to compare Crystal, Silver, and Gold to Red, Blue, and Green. It was going to happen. The only one that didn't have a direct comparison was probably Yellow, so I mean, sucks for that. Bye, Pikachu. But as for the other three, we were always going to compare them. A good example that people always ask this question: which starters are better, Kanto starters or Johto starters? Now, if you ask that question to Game Freak, we already know what their answer is going to be. But if you ask the community and ask everything such as the stats, the move pools, and etc., I hate to say it, but Kanto's gonna look better. But if you put the viability and the competitive scene aside, honestly, there's nothing different between both of these sets. I'm still seeing the same amount of plushies from Chikorita to Bulbasaur. And could you switch these starters around, and maybe if Johto came out first, people would like Johto a lot more than Kanto? Possibly, but the truth is, there was nobody really complaining about the Johto starters. Was it as good as the first pair? Probably not. However, nobody was upset about it. I think Chikorita, Cyndaquil, Totodile, they did great, and they really complemented their gen well. One thing that they added within Soul Silver and Heart Gold is walking with your Pokemon. Being able to walk with your Pokemon is one of the biggest bonding things you can do in this game. I don't know what it is, but something about it just makes you feel good. It got to the point that in almost every single generation, people ask the same question.
Gosh, can my Pokemon finally follow me in this game?
Well, guess what, little Timmy, they can. And not only that, you can talk to them. You know how important it is for me to see that my Teddy Ursa is happy? It does something to your feelings. And it is true that Pokemon Yellow was the first game to technically do this, but we all associate this aspect with Gold, Silver. Besides Pokemon being able to follow you, there's something else that's very important in this game, is that this was the introduction of shiny Pokemon. Now, the chances of you actually finding a shiny Pokemon is very, very slim. I mean, let's be honest, you had a better chance of actually hitting the lottery. But being able to go and get a Pokemon that's actually a different color than an average is very, very unique. Especially because your friends probably didn't have one. Now, many of you may argue that this is probably one of the better implementations in any of the games, and honestly, it keeps you busy. There's a lot of people that actually shiny hunt. I can just throw some people on screen that's shiny hunting in the past couple of hours. And the cool thing is, this actually appeals to the casual audience too. I'm sorry, but it's kind of cool that I can show off my shiny Snubbull. So this is a great mechanic. And speaking of some other great things about this gen, they added a couple more mechanics in here that has actually changed the game completely. The first one being the night-day system, the second one being the egg mechanic. Having your game be able to tell if you're in daytime or nighttime is actually interesting, because for one, it reflects on what you're doing in real life. But secondly, the Pokemon may change. You may actually see a Pidgey flying around in daytime, but it's a Murkrow at night. This is a great way to get you to play as a kid, because I'm sorry, Mom, I'm not going to bed. I need this Murkrow. And another way to keep you busy is they added eggs. Adding eggs is also a good mechanic, because not only introduces breeding inside Pokemon, but also to show that, hey, you want to get something such as a Togepi, you can go ahead and just run around your bike and hatch this egg. New Pokemon, brand new. But that's a good place for me to start with the cons. And a good example are the babies. Adding baby Pokemon is probably the worst possible thing you could do, because it doesn't change anything for the Pokemon that already exists, so why would you want to have a baby? Here, while I show them on screen, let me tell you every single baby Pokemon they've shown in this generation alone. Pichu, Cleffa, Igglybuff, Togepi, Tyrogue, Smoochum, Elekid, and Magby. That's 8. Just to give a little taste of the next generation, Hoenn only had 2 baby Pokemon, so why do we need 8? Now let's just say you didn't care about the babies, you didn't find them cute, you didn't want to catch them. That's perfectly fine. So let's move on to something that a lot of people in the game decided to do, was catch the roaming beast. The roaming dogs were actually kind of interesting, however the way they implemented them in the game was terrible. While you're trying to get Suicune, Entei, and Raikou, you have to use a is it a Poke Radar? Whatever this thing is on the screen here. You had to use this thing to go run around and try to figure out where they are. However, as soon as you find them, they run away. This would literally cause you to go in there, hope you can do damage, status affect him, or just throw a ball at him, and guess what? If you don't catch him, he runs away, and you have to spend your next couple of minutes running to his next location, hope you can try it again. That is terrible. And to make it even more worse, guess what? They're still doing it to this day. This was a terrible mechanic, and Game Freak, you should honestly be ashamed of yourself making this. And even though that's actually disgusting, I still don't want to talk about the happiness system, because that's still in the game, and that's just awful. Now, while I agree that there are plenty of things such as the day-night system, the egg system, and especially the following Pokemon thing is great, I love it. However, you can't just ignore some of the bad things that Johto did. Now, I won't take points away from Johto because of this, because this is actually a problem in almost every generation after Kanto. But the truth is, a lot of these gym leaders are actually obsolete. I would love to challenge you guys off of what's the first Johto gym leader you can remember. However, I guarantee most of you are going to say Claire, Bugsy, or Jasmine. And if you said one of those 3, then they don't count. Because guess what? Nobody else remembers the other ones. And if you do, congratulations, you need to start playing Johto. However, this is more of a Pokemon problem compared to more of a Johto problem. So overall, Game Freak needs to do better, because once you beat him, you'll never see him again. But there is one more thing the Heart Gold and Soul Silver did that no other game has done. They added Kanto. Now let me tell you this, as soon as you can get on a boat on the SS Anne and go to Kanto, the game was changed, because no other generation has done this. Now I also see a lot of people complaining, saying that there's not a lot of scaling inside Kanto and etc. But guess what? This is an add-on. You don't have to play it. The game that Game Freak sold you is only supposed to be Johto. So the fact that they had Kanto in there regardless is going to do nothing but a plus. It doesn't take away from the main game. And honestly, I'm sure we all wish they did this more often anyways. So kings, queens, let's wrap it up here. What do I give Johto? Again, with all the points I said before, and also other people's opinions as well, I'm going to go ahead and tally it up. I'm going to go ahead and give Johto 9 out of 10. Now, I refuse to spoil what I said about Kanto. If you want to go see that, go ahead and check that one out next. But again, Johto, it made a better precedence for the game besides just being the first one. So, that being said, it's a 9 out of 10 in my books. And I didn't mention this either, but as Gold or Lyra, you finally get to fight the previous you, Red. That's, I don't know, fan fiction. So overall, it's a step up from Kanto. But as well, it implemented a lot of bad things that are still existing to this day. But hey, if you made it to the end of the video, I'm curious, what do you think about Johto? And also, what squad do you want? Cyndaquil, Chikorita, you want Totodile? Curious what y'all think. So, thank y'all for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.